back to STL Live. I'm Sarah Bernard, and I'm joined by author Dr. John Daniels, well known here in the St. Louis community. You were at Washington University.
I am.
And you're an author of a fiction novel. And we were talking in the last segment a little bit about the book, and it's about a medical intern student who is in New York. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
And he's gay, and he falls in love with another physician. Is that right?
That's correct.
So the romance blooms.
That's correct.
Okay. So let's talk about you. And you grew up and he's a Jewish doctor.
He grew up a Jew in the South.
Yeah.
Very much like I did.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to go to the parallel of so many similarities to you. So is this character in the book, is this you?
In some ways, this character is a prodigy. I'm not a prodigy. I'm bright enough, but not
the
not
prodigy
a
wanted to be. You wrote about it. You could imagine that life, right?
Exactly. He was a young man I would like to have been, I guess.
Right.
But he grew up in Jew in high school. I was in Jew in high school.
Sure.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So in many ways, he mirrors how I grew up.
So did you draw from your personal experiences a little bit then in writing about his life and carried over to today and your life in the medical field? Are there also parallels in the book?
Oh, very much so. And in fact, most of the medical scenes, the training scenes, and many of the interesting things that happen between the doctors and patients were things that actually happened to me. And in fact, most of them were. So much of it, even though it's fiction, and is really based upon true experiences, perhaps embellished a bit.
Yeah, but I think, going back to what you said in the last segment, how you can read the book and learn a lot about how physicians are trained and their experiences. It would be really interesting for someone who might be interested in that as a career.
I think so. I think many people have no idea what interns and residents go through when they're training to be a doctor. It can be very intense and very stressful.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure that's true. Okay, so now, we talked a little bit in the last segment, too, about how you wrote the book, and it ended up at 600 pages. You pared it down to 300. When did you actually find time? Are you a morning writer, or an evening, a weekend?
I was obsessed with writing this book. I had so much fun doing it. Like, people don't understand. I've done fun things in my life. I've never done anything this much fun.
Really?
And I literally would wake up at 2 in the morning and write. I wrote all weekends. It was just a fun experience.
And did you sit at your computer and write? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
I sat at my computer.
And so did you know where the story was going, or did the story evolve as you wrote?
The story evolved as I wrote. And there were many times that I would create a scene that was so emotional for me. I would literally have to stop and cry for.
Really?
Yes, it was an amazing experience.
So you were surprised. The story surprised you as it was revealed, I guess.
Very much so. Yeah. The story created itself really, and the whole thing was a surprise to me.
And do you love it? Do you love your story?
Love it. I love the story. It's a little hokey, a little unbelievable, but I love the story. I love the story.
So do you envision a sequel?
Not a sequel. I think this one stands on its own, but I do intend to write another book of fiction and maybe some nonfiction as well.
So when are you going to get started? I mean, are you anxious? It seems like you love doing this.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about my next novel. I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to make sure you come back and fill us in when you have that book written. So right now, how can we find The Intern? Where can it be found by our viewers?
Well, it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, as e-books, paperbacks, and hardbacks. So.
Okay. And do you have any tips for aspiring writers? If you could look back at how you wrote the book, is there anything that really worked or didn't work for you?
Well, I think you just have to sit down and do it. And I think perhaps creative writing courses might be helpful, but I think it's like training to be a doctor. It really does just take practice and
don't be afraid to edit and throw pages away, right?
Oh my gosh.
Delete, delete, delete.
Absolutely.
And that's all what practice is.
Absolutely.
Start over. Very good.
Indeed. Yes.
All right, John, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My
and
pleasure.
I look forward to reading The Intern myself. And to purchase your copy of The Intern, you can visit Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. Stay with us. We'll be back with more STL Live after this. Intern, you can visit Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. Stay with us. We'll be back with more STL Live after this.